Today we're taking a look at the Radio Link RC8X transmitter. Welcome back to the channel, guys. You might remember as I started progressing along in my K5 Blazer build, the bagged slammed RC truck, custom chassis and all, that I started mentioning wanting more channels in a transmitter for it. I have the front servos on a channel, the back servo on a channel, and I'm planning on adding some lights and maybe a couple other things later on. So 4-channel radio doesn't work. I needed something more. I started looking at my options and they were all super expensive, except for this one. I already have a lot of money sunk into that truck and I wasn't really super excited about spending $700 on a transmitter. So I ended up finding this Radio Link transmitter. It's an 8-channel transmitter, and decided to take a chance with it. I read a couple of reviews, some positive, some negative, but nothing super like terrible. Obviously, I don't think speed-wise it'll be comparable to those $700 rigs, but for what I need, I don't really need the speed. I just need the functionality, and I believe it'll work. You can see it's a little dusty. I have been using it a bit. First off, when you take it out of the box, it comes with this pretty nice case, all the foam inserts to keep it safe. There is a manual that it comes with that you can run through, tells you about the transmitter and its functions and stuff. As well, inside, it came with 2 receivers actually. One was an 8-channel, and I have that one set up now in my K5 Blazer. The other was a 4-channel, and I've actually put it into my dirt drag truck, if you've seen my last video on it. And it's performed well for that truck as well. So really cool that this transmitter came with 2 receivers straight out the box at its price point. Also, you can see we have a couple accessories here. The first would be a lanyard that you can clip onto the transmitter and wear around your neck. That way you don't drop it, damage it in any way. The other is a carrying strap, I'm assuming for the case. And then we also have a USB cable. From what I read, this transmitter can actually be used for sim racing. Things like VRC, if any of you messed with that back in the day. Super cool RC simulator. This transmitter, I'm assuming using this plug, could be plugged directly to your computer and used for virtual racing like that. As well as a AAA battery tray here. Now, this is an option. I actually went with the other option they include, which is a 2S LiPo battery. Simple to just charge up and stick in the transmitter instead of changing out batteries all the time. I like that option. There's also a little toolkit with the throttle trigger as well. A whole bunch of stuff coming in this box for around a $300 price point for a transmitter like this. I was really excited to see and pretty interested to test it out. We're gonna get rid of this box here and we'll get into the transmitter and go into a couple things with it. First things first, powering it on, we have a nice big on button back here. We press and hold it. You may be able to see the red lights on the side, and then the Radio Link logo will come up, and you might have heard the little lady talk. And this is our home screen of the transmitter. Hopefully these lights aren't too bad with the glare. You can see at the top here, we have our model name. It's set for my Blazer right now. We have battery voltage, how much voltage you have left in your batteries. And then we can see all of my channels, as well as a whole bunch of other things. We have trims at the bottom here, telemetry. This is actually another thing that came in the box that I didn't show because it's actually hooked up in my Blazer right now, but I'll show you that in a minute. A couple of driving assists here, and I believe these are just indicators of when you turn those driving assists on. Before we get all the way into the menu, just on the body of the transmitter itself, obviously we have a throttle trigger and our steering wheel that feels relatively good, honestly. There's a bunch of buttons here since this is 8 channels. We have I guess we ought to go in order. PS1, I'm gonna call it switch 1. PS2, switch 2. PS3 is actually this dial here. It's a stepped dial. PS4, the 4th switch, is actually on the back of the transmitter. It's a push button. PS5 is right up here by your thumb, where your thumb normally sits. And then we also have a bunch of trim switches. So DT1, DT2, DT3, and DT4. These are all trim switches. They're rocker switches, moving back and forth to adjust your trim. You can set each one of these switches to adjust whatever you like. So for instance, right now DT2 is my throttle trim, but I could actually change that to the steering trim if I wanted to. DT1 is my steering trim currently. There's also a VR knob here. Again, another programmable channel switch. On the opposite side, we have a couple plug-ins, a headphone jack. This is where that USB would plug up at. And here in the front, we also have a micro SD card slot with its own micro SD card that comes with the transmitter. Back into the menus now. So to get into your menus, there's a wrench gear icon at the bottom here. That'll bring you to the main menu. We have the main system menu. We have what is considered the basic menu, telemetry settings, racing menu. Here's your mixing settings where you can adjust four-wheel steering, dual ESCs, different things like that. This is what they call a tools menu, just using timers and stuff like that. And then we have our model select and our SD card. I'm not sure if you can see the screen actually might have dimmed a little bit. That's because my voltage dropped down to 6.8 volts on the transmitter. That's actually the low voltage alarm set by default in the transmitter, meaning that I need to charge my battery pretty soon. I am by no means an expert at this and don't know a whole bunch about this transmitter yet, but I will go through and show you the things I did learn and what I do know. Obviously, we have our channel reversing here, endpoint adjustment, sub trims, normal channel stuff that you'll get in any transmitter. We have a channel setting here, which is where we can select which switch activates which channel. So you can see I have PS1 and PS5 as my 3 and 4 here for the Blazer. It's the two closest with my thumb. 1 for the front and 5 for the rear to lift up the truck or drop it back down. These other ones I didn't really mess with just yet. The channel limiters will limit the maximum or minimum output of a channel. This is different from the endpoints where you actually set the endpoints of, say, your steering. We have a switch select menu where we can select the direction of our switches and how they work. We have a receiver voltage here, and I guess now I'll get into and show you. Here you can see the adapter that came with the transmitter. It goes in between your battery and your ESC basically, and has a lead on it that plugs into your receiver in the telemetry spot. And then over here on our transmitter, we can see the telemetry box now has some information in it. We have the RX voltage, the receiver voltage, meaning that it is putting out 5.9 volts. And then the EXT is our battery voltage, 11.4 volts. I'm running a 3S battery here, so my battery voltage is getting pretty low. Just noticed that light might have been pretty rough. The steering curve, throttle curve, brake curve, that kind of stuff is in the racing menu. There's also some acceleration settings, steering delays, throttle delays, cruise control, which is kind of interesting and odd for an RC if you ask me. Idle up, throttle settings. A lot of this stuff has to do with nitro engines. I won't really be using much of that. I have been playing around with one setting that I haven't figured out yet, but I'm trying to figure out if it's similar to the start function with my old Graupner radio, where pull a trigger and it sets at a certain throttle percentage for a certain amount of time before going up to 100%. You have mixing settings, which deals with the gyro and four-wheel steering like I mentioned. And then the tools deals with timers. You can actually take screenshots of your setups and stuff, all of that, and back to the main menu. So now that I got the rest of the front end of the Blazer put together, you can actually see how this transmitter works a bit. I do not have any of the wheels actually fully tightened on, they're loose, so you might see some wobbling there, but we do have steering. And then if I press this PS1 switch right underneath the radio here, you can see it lifts up and down. Obviously, this isn't the full weight of everything with the body and the motor and transmission in there, but these reef servos are looking really promising with how quickly and powerful they lift up the truck. I was able to adjust all the endpoints using this transmitter to make sure I don't go ahead and break anything again. So as you can see, this radio is packed with a bunch of features, a lot of features that you'd see in those higher end, higher dollar radios. This is definitely not just your average upgrade from a stock radio system in an RTR. I don't know many people that are gonna throw a $300 radio system in a $300 to $400 RTR car. But for those of you wanting more channels for a lower price point, this could be an option. I don't have a whole lot of experience with it yet. Like I said, I've only driven 2 vehicles with it, this one being one and then my dirt drag truck being the other. Range wise, out in the field with that truck, it was fine. I didn't have any issues at all. Steering was fine. I was able to adjust the speed of the steering and all. The feel of the transmitter is very good. It doesn't feel cheap or light or anything like that. When I get more wheel time with it, when I figure out all the little nuances with it in programming everything with this truck, as well as driving the dirt drag truck some more, if you guys are interested, I'll come back and do a refresher review video on it. This video is basically just an overview, a first impressions, I guess you could say. And my first impression is I'm pretty happy with this for the price that I got it at, with all of the features that I wanted. If you have any specific questions on this radio that I can maybe help out and answer that I didn't cover in this video, make sure to leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions I can. Subscribe if you're new around here, because believe me, this project is still rolling on. The videos aren't weekly on it anymore because the time that it takes to do these next steps takes a little longer than before. But don't worry, it didn't come to a stop. Thank you all for being patient with me. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. As always, thanks again for watching. Peace.